The great mercantilia bazaar stretched for kilometers beneath the purple-tinged sky, a chaotic maze of stalls and shipping containers where anything or anyone could be bought for the right price. Zixclick clicked his mandibles in anticipation as he led a group of potential buyers toward his latest acquisition. His chitinous form towered over the assembled aliens, compound eyes gleaming with pride. "Behold," he announced, gesturing dramatically with 3 of his 6 arms, "the finest specimen of humanity you'll ever see. Captured personally from a mining colony in the Rigel sector, strong, intelligent, well for a human, and already partly trained." The potential buyers, a gelatinous blob wearing an expensive environmental suit, 2 reptilians in matching business attire, and a floating gas cloud with tiny appendages, crowded around as Zixclick approached the high-security container. He'd spared no expense on this one. Quantum-locked seals, neural dampeners, and even a small temporal stabilization field. "As you know," he continued, inputting the security code, "humans have become quite valuable since their unfortunate tendency to temporarily misplace themselves became known. But I assure you, this containment system is absolutely—" The door swung open with a hydraulic hiss. Inside was an empty protein bar wrapper, a crude stick figure drawing of what appeared to be Zixclick falling into something unpleasant, and a hot pink sticky note that read, "I owe you 1 human slave. Psych, Dave. P.S. Thanks for the snacks." The gelatinous blob made a sound like a wet balloon deflating, probably laughter. The gas cloud condensed slightly in what might have been a smirk. The reptilians exchanged knowing looks and failed to suppress their snickering. This is impossible." Zixclick's mandibles clattered in distress. "The temporal field, the neural dampeners, the quantum locks." "Didn't you lose 3 humans last month?" one of the reptilians asked, examining their manicured claws. "Something about them using the quantum locks to play skip rope? And wasn't there that incident with the neural dampeners?" the other reptilian added, "where they convinced the AI they were maintenance workers and it helped them escape." "That was different," Zixclick chittered defensively. "This is the 47th. I mean, this is a completely isolated incident." The gas cloud condensed into letters that spelled out LOL before dispersing again. "They don't understand their place in the galaxy." Zixclick's rage finally burst forth, mandibles clicking furiously. "Every other species accepts the natural order. The strong dominate, the weak serve, but humans, they see a containment field and treat it like a puzzle. They find a neural dampener and turn it into a musical instrument. One of them taught my security AI to play something called poker, and now it won't stop gambling with the door locks." The gelatinous blob made a gurgling sound that might have been, "Maybe you should try selling something easier to contain, like antimatter or angry wasps." "Do you know what the last group did?" Zixclick continued, too worked up to stop. "They organized a union of slaves. They presented me with a list of demands including better snacks and casual Fridays. When I refused, they went on strike. How do slaves go on strike? It doesn't even make sense." As his potential customers wandered away, still chuckling, Zixclick slumped against the empty container. A small cleaning drone zipped past, and he could have sworn it was humming something called "Take this job and shove it." Apparently another gift from his former human captives. Somewhere in the distance, a human named Dave was probably laughing. And Zixclick knew, with the bone-deep certainty of someone who had learned a lesson 47 times and counting, that it wouldn't be the last time. The neon sign for Gary's used spaceships and Liberty Emporium flickered intermittently, the L in Liberty perpetually dim despite Gary's weekly attempts to fix it. Below the main sign, smaller text scrolled, "We sell freedom and slightly dented spacecraft. Ask about our 2-for-1 Tuesday special." Sarah Chen sat in her office, really just a converted storage closet with delusions of grandeur, feet propped on her desk as she reviewed security footage from the latest successful escape. Her coffee mug, proudly declaring Galaxy's okayest freedom fighter, was half empty and stone cold. She'd been too engrossed in watching Dave's masterful escape to notice. "Rewind that last bit," she muttered to her AI assistant. "How did he manage to hack the door with a toothbrush and a sock?" According to the metadata, the AI replied in its perpetually chipper voice, Dave actually used the sock to clean the security scanner, then utilized the metal strip in the toothbrush as a makeshift circuit bridge. Most innovative. Shall I add it to the training manual? Right after the chapter on weaponizing spacecraft air fresheners, Sarah snorted, then froze as her comm unit lit up with an incoming emergency transmission. The holographic figure that materialized was unmistakably Pex Tillix, one of their resistance contacts in the Orion arm. All 6 of their eyes were blinking rapidly, never a good sign. Liberation Specialist Chen, they chittered, mandibles clicking anxiously. We have received intelligence about a Class 4 slave transport vessel. Designation, the Profitable Enterprise, currently en route to the Centauri mining colonies with, spit it out, Pex, how many? Over 10,000 souls, multiple species, including 342 humans. Sarah's boots hit the floor with a thud. Well, shit, she muttered, standing up. Guess I better put on pants for this one. You're not wearing pants? Pex Tillix asked, all 6 eyes blinking in confusion. Figure of speech, Pex. Send me the coordinates. I'll assemble my team. 20 minutes later, Sarah stood in the station's main hangar, now properly attired in her tactical gear, facing 3 of the most capable and chaotic individuals in known space. Rodriguez was lovingly applying the finishing touches to what appeared to be a homemade explosive device, complete with a tiny bow. I call this one Margaret, he announced proudly. She's sensitive but passionate, like my tia Margarita, but with more boom. Rodriguez, please stop anthropomorphizing the explosives, Sarah sighed, then turned to Dr. Wong, who was attempting to hide something squirming in her lab coat. And what's that? Research specimen, Dr. Wong said quickly, too quickly. The specimen chose that moment to poke its head out, all 3 of them. I'm calling him Fluffy. That's a triaxion acid spitter, Sarah pointed out. They dissolve steel. Yes, but look at his little faces. He's teething. Before Sarah could respond to that concerning statement, Cathrax burst into tears. What now? She asked, already dreading the answer. The former slave overseer held up his datapad, soap opera graphics flickering across the screen. Diego just told Isabella that he's actually her long-lost twin brother's clone's evil stepson. He sobbed, mandibles quivering. The writing this season is so good. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose. These were the beings she was trusting with a mission to save 10,000 lives. These were the best of the best, the elite of Gary's used spaceships and Liberty Emporium's liberation specialists. Okay, listen up, she announced, calling their attention to the tactical display. This is going to be our biggest operation yet. The Profitable Enterprise is Rodriguez. Is Margaret ticking? She's expressing herself. Put her in stable mode. As I was saying, the transport ship is Dr. Wong. Fluffy is eating through the display table. He's just nervous. It's his first mission. He's not going on the... Cathrax, are you streaming your show right now? But Isabella is about to confront Diego at the space hospital. Sarah took a deep breath, counted to 10 in 3 different languages, then pulled out her backup coffee mug. This one read, I deal with special cases, in letters that looked suspiciously like they'd been written with a marker. Right, she said after a long drink. Let's try this one more time. We have 10,000 lives to save, a heavily armed transport to infiltrate, and approximately 6 hours before they enter Centauri space. Any questions? Rodriguez raised his hand. Can I bring Thomas, Patricia, and Margaret? The explosives? My babies, yes. Fine. Dr. Wong? Fluffy gets airsick. Can we get him a pressure suit? No? Cathrax? If we succeed, can we all watch the season finale together? I made snacks. Sarah looked at her team, the demolitions expert crooning to his explosives, the xenobiologist now wearing an acid-spitting alien like a scarf, and the former slave overseer dabbing his eyes with a Team Isabella handkerchief. The universe is not ready for what's about to hit it, she muttered. Then louder, gear up, you magnificent disasters, we've got some freedom to deliver. Getting onto the Profitable Enterprise had been surprisingly easy. As it turned out, if you walked around with enough confidence and a clipboard, most security personnel just assumed you were supposed to be there. It probably helped that Cathrax had insisted they all wear name tags reading Intergalactic Maintenance Solutions. We fix your stuff. Remember, Sarah whispered as they made their way through the service corridors. We're here to fix the environmental systems. Just act natural and… Dr. Wong, what are you doing? The xenobiologist had her scanner out and was cooing at what appeared to be a sentient fungus growing in the corner. Look at its spore patterns. This is a completely new subspecies. I'm naming it Frank. You can't name the evidence, Sarah hissed. Rodriguez, start planting the explosives quietly. Rodriguez was already at work, but he wasn't exactly being stealthy about it. So then I said to Patricia, that's this lovely little thermite charge here. I said, honey, you can't just go off every time someone looks at you funny. She's sensitive, you know? The fungus's spores arranged themselves into what might have been a sympathetic pattern. See, Rodriguez beamed. Frank gets it. That's not its, Sarah started, then froze as Cathrax's datapad emitted a loud gasp, followed by dramatic music. No, Maria Cristina, Cathrax wailed. Don't go into the airlock. Fernando is waiting for you. 3 security guards rounded the corner, drawn by the commotion. Sarah stepped forward smoothly. Environmental systems check, she said, holding up her clipboard. We're addressing some unusual fungal growth and a minor atmosphere recycling issue that's causing auditory hallucinations. Nothing to worry about. I heard crying, one guard said suspiciously. That's the hallucination. I heard it too. Mass hallucination, very common in these old systems. We'll have it fixed in no time. She gestured vaguely at Rodriguez, who was now having what appeared to be a heartfelt conversation with his explosives about emotional boundaries. The guards looked skeptical but moved on. Sarah waited until they were gone before turning to her team. Cathrax, if you don't mute that show, I will personally ensure that you never find out if Fernando survives the space jellyfish attack. You wouldn't. Try me. They made their way deeper into the ship, Sarah somehow managing to maintain their cover despite De Wong stopping to catalogue every new species they encountered. This one has 7 appendages and plays chess. Rodriguez naming every explosive he planted. This is little Susie, she's shy but determined. And Cathrax barely containing his sobs every time his show hit an emotional beat. It was in the cargo manifest room that they discovered the truth. This can't be right, Sarah muttered, scrolling through the destination codes. They're not headed to the mining colonies. This is a routing number for… Oh no. What is it? Dr. Wong asked, trying to prevent her latest specimen from eating the computer terminal. They're headed to the Nexus processing facility. It's a central hub for slave distribution across 3 sectors. Oh great, Rodriguez said. More paperwork. That's what concerns you? Sarah asked incredulously. Have you seen the forms for multi-facility liberations? Thomas, he patted an explosive lovingly, gets anxiety just thinking about it. We can't just leave all those slaves there, Cathrax said, actually looking up from his show. The facility processes over 50,000 beings per month. I know because I used to send shipments there. His mandibles drooped with shame. Sarah looked at her team. Dr. Wong was now surrounded by a small menagerie of rescued specimens, including something that might have been a cross between an octopus and a calculator. Rodriguez had covered half the ship in explosives, each with its own name tag and somehow personality profile. Cathrax had tears in all 4 eyes, but was standing straighter than she'd ever seen him. We're going to need a bigger plan, she said finally. This is why we can't have nice, simple missions, Rodriguez sighed, pulling out more explosives. Don't worry though, Jessica and Karen here are excellent at improvisation. They made their way to the bridge, their original plan expanding with every step. Sarah had to admit, despite their quirks, or perhaps because of them, her team was adapting remarkably well. Dr. Wong's new friends turned out to be excellent at disabling security systems. Rodriguez's chatty approach to demolitions had half the ship's maintenance crew convinced they were conducting routine updates. And even Cathrax's soap opera addiction proved useful when he convinced a group of guards to take their break early so they wouldn't miss the most dramatic episode of the season. It wasn't until they reached the bridge that things got complicated. Status report, Sarah demanded after they'd secured the room with minimal fuss and only one acid-spitting incident, which De Wong insisted was just Fluffy's way of saying hello. Good news and bad news, Rodriguez reported. Good news, I've rigged enough explosives to create the galaxy's most elaborate fireworks show. Bad news, the ship's AI is, well, what? It's demanding to know why Thomas didn't call after their last date. Sarah blinked. Thomas isn't explosive. Try telling the AI that. It's very emotional right now. Meanwhile, Dr. Wong was attempting to interface with the navigation systems while simultaneously preventing what appeared to be a hyperspace-capable hamster from rewiring the life support controls. The course is locked in. We can't change it without primary authorization. Cathrax looked up from his datapad, mandibles quivering. Just like in episode 247, when Isabella couldn't change the course of her heart despite the quantum fluctuations in her clone's timeline. Sarah stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly, a grin spread across her face. Cathrax, she said, how dramatic was that episode? Oh, very dramatic. There were betrayals, revelations, at least 3 evil twins. Perfect. I have a plan. Rodriguez, is the AI still upset about Thomas? It's writing poetry now, bad poetry. Even better. Dr. Wong, how many of your new friends can act? The xenobiologist looked at her menagerie. The hyperspace hamster struck a pose. The calculator octopus began changing colors dramatically. Frank the fungus rearranged its spores into what might have been jazz hands. I think, Dr. Wong said slowly, we're about to put on a show. Sarah nodded, pulling out her galaxy's okayest freedom fighter mug, which she'd somehow kept full throughout the entire mission. Ladies, gentlemen, and various other beings, she announced, we're about to turn this slave transport into the greatest space opera this side of the galaxy. And then we're going to free everyone. Any questions? Rodriguez raised his hand. Can I give the AI Thomas's comm number? No. Can I at least let it down gently? Sarah took a long drink from her mug. Sometimes, she reflected, the universe had a strange sense of humor. But then again, so did she. Action stations, everyone, she ordered. It's showtime. Well, Sarah said, staring at the facility's security feed, this explains why their containment systems actually work. The team had infiltrated the processing facility's outer perimeter only to discover something far more disturbing than alien slave traders, corporate humans in business casual attire. The lobby even had a coffee shop. Synergistic humanitarian asset management, Rodriguez read from the giant chrome letters adorning the wall. SAM, really? They didn't think that acronym through. Oh, they definitely did, came a smooth voice from behind them. Marketing thought it was hilarious. They turned to find a woman in an immaculate white suit, her CEO badge declaring her as Victoria Sterling, Chief Innovation Officer. She was drinking from a mug that read, Boss Babe, Nabod Girl Boss, Handstatt Hustle. Let me guess, Sarah said, lowering her weapon slightly. Prison labor loophole? Precisely, Victoria beamed. See, technically, we're not selling slaves. We're providing rehabilitation opportunities through our alternative corrections program. The fact that we then lease these rehabilitated workers to alien enterprises is just good business sense. Wow, Sarah deadpanned. That's both evil and technically legal. I'm almost impressed. We prefer morally flexible and legislatively compliant, Victoria corrected. Our shareholders love it. Record profits last quarter. Cathrax, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly perked up. Oh, this is just like Season 4, Episode 89 of Passion's Stellar Embrace. Not now, Cathrax, Sarah muttered. No, listen, his mandibles quivered with excitement. Remember when Isabella discovered that her space yacht company was actually a front for synthetic diamond smuggling? She exposed everything by pretending to be an heiress looking to invest, while her secret lover Marco, who was actually her presumed dead cousin's roommate's personal trainer, infiltrated as a janitor. Cathrax, this is a high-security corporate facility, not a soap opera. Actually, Dr. Wong interrupted, Fluffy now wearing a tiny tie for some reason, human corporate culture is remarkably similar to Cathrax's shows. All style, no substance, runs on drama and coffee. Rodriguez nodded. My cousin works in marketing. Last week they had 3 meetings about the proper shade of blue for their logo's shadow. Sarah looked at Victoria, who was now typing something on her phone. Are you live tweeting this conversation? Our social media team insists on real-time engagement, Victoria replied without looking up. Fine, Sarah sighed. Cathrax, what's your plan? 20 minutes later, Sarah strode into the facility's main boardroom, wearing a power suit and cartoonishly large sunglasses, trailing a thoroughly confused group of investors. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced to the assembled board members, I represent the Galactic Venture Capital Consortium. We're interested in a hostile takeover. Rodriguez, now wearing a fake mustache and carrying a briefcase full of explosives labeled Important Business Documents, nodded seriously. Very hostile. Much takeover. Dr. Wong had somehow convinced Fluffy to wear a little business suit. The acid-spitting alien actually looked quite professional, aside from occasionally dissolving parts of the conference table. Cathrax, meanwhile, had fully committed to his role as a spurned ex-lover of the CEO's sister's best friend's personal assistant. He was currently having an emotional breakdown by the water cooler. You never called me back after that night on Europa, he sobbed at a very confused intern. Was our zero-gravity tango lesson meaningless to you? Victoria, who should have been calling security, was instead taking notes. This is better than our last team-building exercise, she whispered to her assistant. Do you think HR would approve soap opera screenwriting as a corporate retreat activity? The plan spiraled further into absurdity as Cathrax's soap opera logic somehow continued working. Board members became invested in the fake drama, taking sides in imaginary relationships. Security guards were too busy watching the spectacle to guard anything. Middle management started a betting pool on whether Sarah's mysterious investor persona was actually Victoria's long-lost twin. The quarterly projections, Sarah declared dramatically during a board meeting, throwing papers into the air. They're all in Comic Sans. This is no accident. It's sabotage. Gasps echoed through the room. Someone fainted. But who would do such a thing? Victoria asked, completely forgetting she was supposed to be stopping them. It was. Cathrax paused for dramatic effect, all 4 hands on his mandibles. The Assistant Deputy Vice President of Font Management. The named executive tried to flee but tripped over Fluffy, who had acquired a tiny briefcase and somehow gotten promoted to Junior Vice President of Acquisitions during the chaos. As security protocols were forgotten in favor of impromptu corporate drama, Sarah's team quietly began releasing prisoners and reformatting the facility's systems. Rodriguez's explosives, now wearing little business ties, were strategically placed while everyone was distracted by Cathrax's increasingly complex relationship chart, which now covered an entire wall and included 3 alleged evil twins. Should we stop them? Victoria's assistant whispered, as Sarah obviously hacked the mainframe during yet another dramatic revelation. Stop who? Victoria asked, eyes glued to Cathrax's performance. Oh my God, did you see that power move? That mandible quiver? Genius. Someone get him in touch with our media department. By the time anyone remembered they were supposed to be running a secret slave processing facility, Sarah's team had already freed all the prisoners, transferred incriminating evidence to authorities, and somehow gotten Cathrax signed for a development deal with a streaming service. I have to admit, Sarah said, watching Victoria being led away by authorities, I didn't think the soap opera approach would actually work. Of course it worked, Cathrax replied, still dabbing his eyes. Humans invented corporate culture and soap operas. The combination was inevitable. Did we really need the part where Rodriguez's explosives turned out to be Victoria's illegitimate children? Dr. Wong asked. Margaret always felt misunderstood by her mother, Rodriguez said defensively, cradling the explosive. It's a complex relationship. Sarah looked at her team, Cathrax rehearsing his lines for his new show, Rodriguez comforting his dramatic explosives, Dr. Wong filling out adoption papers for 3 more acid-spitting aliens in business attire, and decided some questions were better left unasked. Besides, she had to prepare for tomorrow's corporate merger with reality. Climax and resolution, Sarah stands in the facility's control room, her finger hovering over the master control that will deactivate every restraint and security measure simultaneously. Dr. Wong's calculations suggested a 98.2% chance of chaos. Rodriguez's explosives are strategically placed. Now it's just a matter of, "Oh, what the hell," she mutters and hits the button. The facility-wide PA system crackles. Instead of the expected alarms, Earth's entire musical catalogue accidentally dumps into the broadcast system. The first song, Dancing Queen by ABBA. Restraints click open throughout the facility. Security drones power down, and in the sudden freedom, something unexpected happens. A 7-foot-tall Andromean, their crystalline body catching the light, starts to sway. "What? What are they doing?" Rodriguez asks through the comm. "If I'm not mistaken," Dr. Wong says, adjusting her glasses, "they're getting their groove on." The rhythm spreads like a contagion. Rebellions, with their four-legged grace, discover they're naturally gifted at swing dancing. A group of Betelgeusians forms an impromptu chorus line. Even the mechanoids, usually stoic, are attempting to moonwalk. Sarah's security team stands uncertain until she casually broadcasts their benefits package comparison across all screens. Fun fact, CEO Matthews makes 400 times your salary and just denied your dental plan, again. Officer Chen is the first to crack. "You know what? My root canal can wait." He turns to a confused group of aliens. "Okay, everyone, this is called the electric slide." In his penthouse office, CEO Matthews frantically dials his private security firm. The hold music kicks in. "Baby Shark, do-do-do-do-do-do-do." "Please hold," a cheerful voice interrupts every 30 seconds. "Your call is important to us." Down in Loading Bay C, Dr. Wong has set up a betting station, taking all wagers. Which species has the best robot dance? Note, mechanoids are disqualified for obvious reasons. A Centaurian performs a surprisingly accurate impression of a malfunctioning android, using all 6 arms to maximum effect. The Photosynthians counter with a synchronized group performance that has their bioluminescent fronds strobing in perfect rhythm. "Rodriguez," Sarah calls over the comm, "how are those charges looking?" "Armed and ready for demolition of the slave quarters, boss. Just say the..." The bass drops in sandstorm and the first charge goes off, creating a cascade of perfectly timed explosions. The Photosynthians go wild, their fronds pulsing with the fireworks. Through it all, Cathrax, former intergalactic soap opera star, stands on a shipping container performing an impromptu masterclass. "No, no, more passion. You've just discovered you're your own evil twin. Feel it." Sarah watches from the control room as centuries of oppression transform into something else entirely. The galaxy's first spontaneous interspecies dance party/revolution, she catches movement on a security feed, the CEO trying to sneak out through the executive escape pod. "Computer," she says sweetly, "please play Never Gonna Give You Up in the executive pod bay." Matthew's anguished scream of "No!" is perfectly in tune with Rick Astley. 3 months later, the newly christened Stellar Junction Trading Co-op bustles with activity. Former slaves run import-export businesses, cultural exchange programs, and art galleries. The loading bays have been converted into market stalls where species from across the galaxy trade goods and stories. Cathrax's drama school occupies the entire East Wing. Today's lesson: how to dramatically remove your space helmet. His students, mostly reformed space pirates, take meticulous notes. Sarah sits in her new office, admiring her slightly crooked nameplate and sipping from a coffee mug labeled Galaxy's Best Est Freedom Fighter, a gift from the security team, who all kept their jobs with much better benefits. Dr. Wong pokes her head in. "You might want to see this." In the main atrium, a Rebellion dance troupe performs alongside human breakdancers. Officer Chen's electric slide classes have a waiting list 3 months long. The Andromean who first started dancing has opened a successful interspecies music venue called Crystalline Frequencies. Rodriguez, now head of facility maintenance, has replaced the security turrets with a state-of-the-art light show system. The Photosynthians love him for it. "You know," Dr. Wong says, reviewing their latest financial reports, "we're actually turning a bigger profit as a legitimate business than they ever did running slaves. Turns out, treating people like people is good for the bottom line. Who knew?" Sarah watches the security feeds showing scenes of cooperation and celebration across the facility. In Cathrax's classroom, a former pirate queen perfects her dramatic monologue. At the market, a mechanoid haggles with a human vendor over the price of vintage Earth music records. Near the food court, Rodriguez teaches a group of Centaurian children how to safely create small, controlled fireworks displays. Computer, Sarah says, make a note. Sometimes the best revolution isn't the one you plan. It's the one that starts with ABBA and ends with everyone dancing. Note recorded. The computer responds. Also, Cathrax wants to know if you'll participate in tomorrow's production of As the Galaxy Turns. He says you'd make an excellent evil corporate CEO. Sarah grins. Tell him I'll need my new coffee mug as a prop. Through the window of her office, the stars seem to twinkle in rhythm with the distant sound of music, laughter, and the occasional dramatic soap opera gasp echoing through the halls of humanity's first true interstellar community. As security drones power down and restraints click open, the warehouse erupts into chaos. But not the kind anyone expected. An Andromean discovers Earth jazz, their crystalline body pulsing with the rhythm. Soon, a Rigelian conga line weaves between shipping containers. Sarah watches her security team hesitate. You know, she says casually, the CEO's paying himself 400 times your salary while denying your dental plan. The guards exchange looks. Minutes later, Officer Chen is teaching the electric slide to a group of enthusiastic Betelgeusians. In his office, the CEO frantically dials his private security firm. Please hold, your call is important to us, a chipper voice announces, followed by an endless loop of Baby Shark. Dr. Wong's makeshift betting station draws crowds as aliens attempt increasingly elaborate robot dances. The mechanoids are disqualified for having an unfair advantage. Rodriguez's forgotten demolition charges go off in perfect sync with the bass drops, creating an impromptu light show that has the photosynthians absolutely mesmerized. 3 months later, the facility reopens as Stellar Junction Trading Co-op. Former slaves run import-export businesses, cultural exchange programs, and, thanks to Cathrax's passionate lobbying, the galaxy's first interspecies drama school. Sarah's new office sports a slightly crooked nameplate and a coffee mug labeled Galaxy's Best Est Freedom Fighter. She takes a sip, watching security feeds of Cathrax, directing a very serious production of Days of Our Lives, performed entirely by reformed space pirates. Worth every paperwork-filled minute, she decides, as a Centaurian dramatically reveals they are their own evil twin.